You've been thinking about it for a while now. Maybe you're watching your rent go up again and wondering if you're just throwing money away every month. Maybe you've been scrolling Zillow late at night, looking at homes on the North Shore, and you're trying to figure out if buying actually makes sense right now, or if you should just stay put and wait. That question, rent or buy, is one of the most important financial and lifestyle decisions you'll make. And the problem is, most of the advice out there is generic. It doesn't account for the specific market. It doesn't factor in what's actually happening on Chicago's North Shore right now. And it definitely doesn't tell you what nobody tells you, the stuff that actually changes the calculation. So in this video, the Caroline Gow team is going to break it all down. The real numbers, the real trade-off, and the things that make buying on the North Shore different from buying anywhere else, and how to figure out which move is actually right for you. By the end, you'll know exactly where you stand. So let's get into it. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, this is the Caroline Gow team. We're based in Northbrook, Illinois, and for 24 years, we've been helping buyers, sellers, and relocating families navigate the North Shore real estate market. Northbrook, Glenview, Deerfield, Highland Park, and all the communities in between. This channel exists to give you real information, not hype, not fluff, just honest guidance so you can make confident decisions. If that's what you're looking for, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. You won't want to miss what's coming. Now let's talk about renting versus buying. Here's the thing about this question. Everyone frames it as a math problem. And yes, the math matters. We'll get into it. But what most people miss is that renting versus buying is also a lifestyle question, a timing question, and on the North Shore specifically, it's a market question because this is not a typical suburban real estate market. Inventory is low, demand is consistent, and communities here, the walkability, the metro access, the lifestyle, attract a very specific kind of buyer and renter. That changes the analysis in ways that a generic calculator on some national website simply won't account for. So here's how our team's going to walk through this. First, we'll look at the honest cost of renting on the North Shore right now. Then the real cost of buying, not just the mortgage, all of it. Then we'll talk about the break-even point, which is the number most people don't absolutely need to. Then we'll go through the 5 situations where renting still makes more sense. And finally, we'll talk about what makes the North Shore buyer decision different from buying anywhere else in the country. Let's take one step at a time. First, renting on the North Shore. What does it actually cost? If you're renting in Northbrook, Glenview, Deerfield, or Highland Park right now, you already know that it's not cheap. We're not talking about city apartment rents, but the North Shore rental market has tightened considerably over the past several years. A 2-bedroom apartment or townhome in a desirable North Shore community will run typically somewhere in the range of $2,200 to $3,200 a month, depending on the town, the unit, and what's included. 3 bedrooms, if you can even find them, push higher. And single-family home rentals are a different category entirely. Now, here's what renting gives you. Flexibility. If your job changes, if your family situation shifts, if you decide this isn't the right town for you, you can move. You're not responsible for a new furnace, leaking roof, or a water heater that decides to give up in February. Your monthly payment is fixed for the term of your lease. And your capital, whatever down payment you would have used, stays in your pocket, available for other things. Here's what renting costs you beyond the monthly check. Every dollar you pay in rent is gone. It builds no equity. It creates no ownership stake, and it does not come back to you. And on the North Shore, where property values have shown consistent long-term appreciation, that gap between what renters pay and what owners pay builds and compounds over years. That doesn't mean renting is wrong, but it does mean the clock is always running. There's also the reality of rent increase. Your landlord can raise your rent at the lease renewal. In a tight rental market like North Shore, that's not a hypothetical. It happens regularly. Taxes go up, costs go up. When you own your own home with a fixed rate mortgage, your principal and interest payment stays the same for 30 years. That stability is worth something that doesn't show up easily in a calculator. Now let's look at the real cost of buying. The mortgage payment is where most people start, but it's not where the conversation ends. When you're buying a home on the North Shore, let's use Northbrook as an example because it's the market where I live and work, and it's the median price for a single-family home in the mid $500,000 to $600,000 range in recent years, though the market moves and specific numbers change. Our team always pulls current comps for every client because this shifts. So let's work with a general example. Let's say you're purchasing a home at the $550,000 range. You put 20% 10% down, that's $110,000. Your loan is $440,000. At current interest rates, your principal and interest payment is going to be in the range that is significant. And our team will always model this out specifically for any buyer based on today's actual rates. But beyond mortgage, here's what the true monthly cost of homeownership includes. Property taxes on the North Shore. This is a real number. Cook County, where Northbrook, Glenview sit, has a complex property tax system with 3-year assessment cycles, homeowner exemptions, and senior exemptions that can reduce your tax bill. But the baseline rates are meaningful. Northbrook properties in the $500,000 range often have tax bills that range $10,000 to $15,000. That's roughly $800 to $1,200 a month that gets added to your housing costs. Lake County communities like Highland Park tend to have somewhat different tax structure. Always verify with current data and the specific address. Homeowners insurance. On the North Shore, for a single family home, budget somewhere in the range of $2,000 to $3,000 annually. That's another $150 to $250 a month. HOA fees if applicable. If you're buying a townhome, condo, or property in a planned community, there may be HOA fees ranging anywhere from a couple hundred to several $100s a month. Single family homes in traditional subdivisions often have no HOA or a very modest one. Maintenance. This one is the wild card. The general rule of thumb in real estate is to budget 1% to 2% of your home's value annually for maintenance and repair. On a $500,000 home, that's $5,000 to $10,000 a year, or roughly $400 to $800 a month, averaged out over time. Some years you spend nothing. The year your roof goes, your budget takes a hit. The Caroline Gow team always counsels buyers to factor this in because it's real. So when you add it all up, mortgage, taxes, insurance, maintenance, owning a $550,000 home on the North Shore is not equivalent to a mortgage payment. It's a total housing cost that could range from $4,000 to $5,000 a month or higher depending on tax. That sounds like a lot. So why do people still buy? Because ownership builds equity. Every mortgage payment includes a portion that goes toward principal, meaning you own a little more of your home each month. In the early years of a loan, this is weighted towards interest, but over time, the equity portion grows. And if your home appreciates in value, which North Shore properties have historically done over long periods, that equity compounds. You're building wealth rather than paying someone else's mortgage, because fixed rate mortgages create stability. Your principal and interest payment doesn't change. Taxes will go up, insurance can adjust, but the core of your housing cost is locked. That predictability has real value, especially when rental markets continue to tighten. Because homeownership on the North Shore comes with something renters rarely have access to: the full experience of these communities, the ability to plant roots, know your neighbors, put your kids in schools, join a park district, and build a life in a specific place. That's not quantifiable on a spreadsheet, but it's real. Now, the break-even point. This is the number you actually need. The break-even point is the minimum amount of time you need to stay in a home for buying to beat renting financially. And it's the question our team asks every buyer who has any uncertainty about their timeline. Here's why it matters. Buying a home comes with significant transaction costs. On the purchase side, inspection fees, appraisal, closing costs, lender fees, you're typically looking at 2% to 3% of the purchase price in closing costs. On the sales side, when you eventually sell, you're typically looking at commission and closing costs in the range of 7% to 9% of the sale price. So there's a meaningful cost to entering and exiting homeownership. If you buy and sell too quickly, you can actually come out behind, even in an appreciating market. The break-even timeline varies. Even if property values are rising meaningfully, break-even happens faster. If you finance at a high rate and values are flat, it takes longer. A general rule of thumb in many markets is 3 to 5 years. On the North Shore specifically, where demand has been consistent and inventory limited, appreciation has historically supported shorter break-even timelines than even in more volatile markets. But this is always property specific, and our team models it out with actual numbers for each buyer. If you know you're staying in the area for 5 or more years, the math almost always favors buying over renting on the North Shore. If you're uncertain about your timeline, that uncertainty needs to factor into the decision. Now let's talk about 5 situations where renting still makes sense. Because it does sometimes, and our team believes in honest guidance, not just telling everyone to buy. Situation 1. Your timeline is uncertain. If there's a real possibility you'll be relocating for work, going through a major life transition, or simply aren't sure where you'll be in 2 to 3 years, renting keeps your options open. Homeownership requires commitment. If you can't make that commitment, then don't. Situation 2, your finances aren't fully ready. A 20% down payment eliminates private mortgage insurance and gives you the strongest position in a competitive offer. If getting to 20% would drain your emergency fund or leave you with no financial cushion for repairs and life events, you're not ready yet. Our team would rather tell you that now than watch you stretch into a situation that becomes stressful. Situation 3. Your credit needs work. Mortgage rates are highly sensitive to credit score. A buyer with excellent scores will get meaningfully better terms than a buyer with scores in the 650. If your credit profile needs attention, 6 to 12 months of focused improvement can save you tens of thousands of dollars over the life of the loan. That time renting while you optimize is time well spent. Situation 4. You're new to the area and haven't decided where you want to be. The North Shore has multiple distinct communities. Northbrook, Glenview, Deerfield, Highland Park, Winnetka, Glencoe, and they each have different feel, a different commute picture, and a different lifestyle. If you just relocated and you're still figuring out which town fits your family, renting for a year while you get oriented is not a bad move. The Caroline Gow team would rather you end up in the right community than rush into the wrong one. Situation 5. The market in your target price range is intensely competitive and you're not mentally ready to move fast. On the North Shore right now, well-priced homes in desirable segments can generate offers quickly. If you know you're the type of buyer who needs to think for a week, sleep on it, and see the house 5 times, competitive offer situations will be painful. That doesn't mean you shouldn't buy, but it means the team needs to help you get into a place of clarity and confidence before you start. Now, what makes the North Shore buyer decision different from buying anywhere else? A few things that don't show up in national real estate articles. Illinois is an attorney state. Every real estate transaction involves attorneys for both the buyer and the seller. There's a 5 business day attorney review period after an offer is accepted. This is different from many other states where title companies handle closings without attorneys involved. For buyers relocating from out of state, this surprises almost everyone. Our team works with excellent real estate attorneys and will always make sure you have the right representation. The inspection approach matters here. The North Shore market is competitive. In strong sellers market conditions, buyers who come in with a long list of repair requests, especially on cosmetic items, can lose deals or create friction that costs them the home. Our team uses a strategic inspection approach thoroughly so you know exactly what you're buying, but focus post-inspection requests on meaningful issues like health and safety, not a drifting faucet or a missing doorstop. The goal is to protect the buyer while not blowing up a deal over things that don't matter. Metro access is a real factor in North Shore pricing. Homes that sit within walking distance of a Metro Union Pacific North or Milwaukee North Line station command a premium and hold their value well. For buyers who commute to the city, proximity to the train is not just a convenience, it's a lifestyle anchor. Our team always factors in commute reality into the conversation. Cook County property taxes have a 3-year assessment cycle and homeowner exemption that reduces your taxable value by $10,000. New buyers often aren't aware that they need to apply for the homeowner's exemption. It's not automatic. Our team makes sure every buyer knows this at close. And finally, the North Shore is not a market that sits still. Inventory has been constrained. When the right property comes available in the right community at the right price, it can move fast. Buyers who are pre-approved, who have all their financial pictures sorted, and who have done the work in advance to know what they want, those buyers win. Buyers who are still figuring it out when the listing hits, those buyers miss out. So let's bring this all together. Renting gives you flexibility, lower upfront cost, and zero maintenance responsibility. It's the right choice when your timeline is short, your finances need strengthening, or you haven't landed on the right community yet. Buying builds equity, creates stability, and on the North Shore specifically, in communities with consistent demand and limited inventory, it has historically been a strong long-term financial decision. It's the right move when your timeline is 5 or more years, your finances are solid, and you're ready to commit to a community. The break-even point is your most important number. Know it before you make a decision. The team can help you model it out with real numbers based on current rates, real tax data, and actual comps. Illinois attorney review is real, and it's different from other states. Get an attorney, know the timeline, don't skip this step. Metro proximity matters on the North Shore. Factor your commute into your town selection. Property taxes are meaningful in Cook County. Budget for them, apply for your homeowner exemption, And never assume the number you see on Zillow is what you'll actually pay. Always verify with current tax record. The competitive nature of this market rewards prepared buyers, pre-approval in hand, finances sorted, priorities clear. That's how you position yourself to move when the right home comes up. And when you understand all of this going in, the whole experience is completely different. You're not reacting, you're deciding. If you're trying to figure out whether renting or buying makes sense for your specific situation right now, reach out to the Caroline Gow team. The link is in the description. Our team has 24 years in this market, and this is exactly the kind of conversation that changes how you approach the next chapter. There's no pressure, no pitch, just a real conversation about where you stand and what makes sense. If this video helped you think through things differently, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. And if you know someone who's going back and forth on this question, send them this video. It might be exactly what they need to get clarity. I'm Caroline Gow with Real. See you soon.